Gregarious joy.
Whatever time of day it is that you're taking the opportunity
We're back.
to view us, we say thanks in advance for doing so. As we start off each of our episodes, we have an inspirational message of the day. And today's inspirational message has to do with our passion to serve. When I'm attuned to spirit, the desire to serve others is awakened in me. I am eager to express God through my thoughts, through my words, and through my actions. I feel my heart expand in gratitude. I realize that I am a vehicle through which God is revealed in the world. I may not be perfect, but I'm given that gift that God has given me. I often ask Spirit, how can I best be of service? I listen with a grateful heart and mind and act on the guidance that I receive. As I share my gifts with passion, I am awakened to the all that I am and all that I have to give. The energy of God is within me and it is ignited. I am on fire with passion to serve.
Woo! I love it. And I wasn't a cheerleader for nothing. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Well, I just asked before we move past this point that we just take it in for a moment, and wherever you are, just know that you are of service to other people, and you can be of service to other people, and how you show up in your daily life. Whether it is a compliment to someone at work who did a great job, whether it's a pat on the back to your kid, whether it's showing up in your spiritual community and sharing the gifts and the talents that you've been given, please do so. Our world is in need of our special gifts.
The world needs you.
The world does need you. The world needs us.
Yeah, and you know, people just got to take a moment. I mean, actually, taking this time to do this show is actually taking a moment.
It is taking a moment.
It's like as things go along, you know, I got these goals, I got this to do, that to do, and these dreams, these commitments, these goals, and it's a really great time to slow down. I mean, I'm not saying everybody should do a social media show, but do something that slows you down.
Yes.
You know, even if it's like when you go to church, you think,
Yes.
oh, I don't want to go to church today. I'm fine. I'm not, you know, weak today. I feel good. But
Right.
you know what? The moment you do that, if you go and take the time to say go to church, do something that's a positive ritual that slows you down for a few minutes, it's really, really going to be better in the long run. It's kind of like probably anyone, I don't know about everybody, but when I get a massage, I say, I don't really need a massage today, I'm okay, but then I'll be darned if most of the time, when I'm finished, I'm going, how could I have never wanted that massage? I needed that so bad. You know, it's just like you really don't realize it.
Yes.
Until they get in there with your muscles.
Yeah, each one of us is a vehicle for greater good in our world. And in closing out, I would just take a moment to say thank you, God, for allowing us to be present in our current form. As I've stated, this might not be perfect, but it's our gift, and it's how we choose to share. So thank you for being with us on this journey of faith, and share your thoughts and blessings with us if you would.
We would love to hear them.
Yes, and
Really.
so it is.
And so it is.
Okay.
Yeah. And I noticed on the watch parties, a lot of times it has an easy thing for us to do where we just wave back at somebody. But truthfully, if you make a statement, comments, we will try to write you all back, okay? Because it's important. And you know, even if it's 100 people, it's going to take a couple days, but we'll write back to you and say something. It'll be really fun to share with you or get your input and touch back.
Okay.
You know?
Okay, so now that we have our inspirational message, what's going on with you? What went on this weekend?
Oh, it was a great weekend. Well, I would say, speaking of the slowing down time, the best decompression thing that I like to do that Greg has never really done was going to Red Rock. I love to hike. And I don't know, my dad always told me I have the body of a hiker or legs for hiking. And I can hike probably better than a lot of people, faster. Even professional athletes, sometimes I've left them in the dust and they're like, oh my God, I'm so sore. But I could just hike. I don't know what it is about. That's what I have. So, what was it like?
She's been asking me for a long time to do this hike with her at Red Rock.
Can I say what you said afterwards?
Yeah, sure.
It's worth the hype.
Yeah, it was worth the hype.
And I'm really glad to hear you said it was worth the hype.
The state park is absolutely beautiful when you enter. All the rocks and the mountains are red. It is really something to see. And, I sat there on the bench for some time, and it was some quiet time for me to spend alone with Spirit. Questions that I've been asking in my mind. I sit in the silence and have an opportunity for Spirit to speak back to me. And I got that feeling when I was in Red Rock. Now, things shifted a bit when she asked me to go on this climb. She said, you have to see it. I don't remember what point it was, but you had to go up and down and up over rocks just to be able to see the Las Vegas Strip from about 50 miles away.
That's everybody who hikes, Sandstone Quarry. Okay, so that one's the one, at the very end before you start turning left. And that's my favorite hike. So we were going to hike to the little lake, or it's a pond, at the end of that, where you can see the strip from there. And what is it? I think it's only about 3-4 miles, but it's sort of like a lot of stairs at the end that they made with rocks. So he didn't even see that part yet. But we got to the point where, what time was it? It was already 9 o'clock, but it had a breeze. It was a cool breeze, too, believe it or not.
It was 92 degrees, and it felt like it was 75, 80.
It wasn't hot.
It wasn't no humidity, a nice breeze going.
And we didn't bring, tons of water, so it worked out fantastic, perfect, because,
It worked out fantastic for you. I went about halfway up, and I turned around. I said, look,
it was really great.
I wasn't prepared for that. And again, this was my first hike.
I told you it would rearrange your molecules, didn't I?
Yeah, you did say that. It probably did. Yeah, it probably did rearrange a few.
It's like the sight of those red rocks and the dark and the white, red, and black rocks sort of all sandwiched together like an Oreo cookie. It's just amazing. It's visceral. I think it's very, it's something that's primal within us to be in a totally different atmosphere or environment than our home.
Yes.
Sitting in front of our TV on our bed, it's like, wow, you're just in a completely different world, like you're in a George Jetson movie, or Lost in Space. You're in a totally different place. So it's
I agree.
Cool. It's good for you.
If you come to Vegas, I would say if you spend a few hours out of your day, maybe one of the days that you come, if you have some time, is to go and visit Red Rock State Park. It is absolutely breathtaking.
Make sure you go in the morning. They open at 6. I think they're 6 to 6. Go early. Get there by 8 if you can, because it's going to get crowded and too many people parking and all that. But it's also got to be there when it's cool enough. So that's your best time. Don't try to go in the evening. Think it's going to cool off. It won't. Our city does not cool off in the evenings like California does normally. I mean, once in a blue moon it might, if we have a cool breeze or something like yesterday. But go early.
Okay.
Keynote.
Well, thank you for the Red Rock.
A lot of bicyclists.
Awakening.
A lot of bicyclists. People out there doing horseback riding, and it's fun.
So what else did you?
As soon as I could walk, they slapped a backpack on my back. So I love hand camping and hiking of any sort.
She did do the hike though. I was impressed. She was climbing.
Oh, I love it.
Okay.
And Raleigh.
And she took her dog. I don't know if that was a good thing.
I know he's
the
getting
dog
really
was pooped out about halfway through the whole thing.
I would have carried him if he really needed it.
Yeah.
But, he was fine.
All right. Okay.
He slept all day.
Okay.
Right?
Well, we also did something, too. We often,
for fun,
like to talk about doing a movie review. And,
and it's gonna. Oh, and do you want to
tell
talk
them what
about?
we saw.
Well, first let's talk about what your subject is today, because this movie review should come after.
Okay.
Don't you think?
Okay. Well, my title, Emancipation, Proclamation. A lot of people aren't aware that June 19th, 1865, the Union soldiers led by Major General Gordon Granger landed at Galveston, Texas,
Okay.
and announced the news that the war was over and all slaves were free.
That was beautiful.
That
That's
was in
a great day.
1865.
1865.
Right, but 2 years before that,
Took so long for
President Lincoln announced the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, which officially freed the slaves.
But it was
But
2 more
the
years
message
later
didn't
until
get
the war
to,
got.
I guess, Texas and
they
to the
had
rest
to-
of the country maybe until 1865.
That's 3 more years till it permeated into the people because of they had to take horseback to get any word out. They had to have write letters.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have internet.
Yeah. Well, the first slaves arrived
And
in
also,
the.
it took even longer for it to really be recognized.
Well, they didn't have
It's
cell
still
phones.
not
and-
completely recognized
You know,
in
they
some
didn't have
places of the world.
cell phones and text messages back in that day, so I'm sure the stagecoach moved a little slowly to get to that part of Texas. But little did
the
a
South.
lot of us know, maybe you did,
Uh-huh.
the first slaves arrived in 1619 in Jamestown, Virginia.
That's 200 years.
1619.
Right, that's 200 years until they were
Right.
freed.
There were 12.5 million African Americans were brought to this country. 12.5 million, and 10.6 million actually made it. You know, they were stored in the hull of the ship. Many of them got sick, and those who got sick were thrown overboard. There were some who did make it and were exhausted, and they just didn't make it.
Right.
And there were times when the seas were rough and they needed to lighten their load, so they would just go down and start throwing slaves overboard to
geez.
get rid of them to lighten the
That's
ship.
just horrible.
And, I'm bringing this up because I'm not sure that
in-
all history books have shared the plight of African Americans coming from Africa to the United States.
In the detail.
And all the details. And we won't be able to go over all of that in this segment, but I'd like to highlight maybe some of the events, and somewhere down the road we can talk about each one of those events individually. Slavery in America lasted for 245 years. 245 years, and that's 245 years
Yeah, it's more than I
of
thought.
free labor.
Right.
Okay? 245 years
Persecution.
of free labor.
And persecution. I mean,
Okay?
that's, wow.
So in 1865, when the word went out that we were free and we were no longer slaves, there was still racism in this country. There were water fountains for, you've seen the signs, blacks,
Colored.
whites.
They said colored.
Oh, colored.
No
they did.
colored.
Yeah, they
can
said colored
drink
back
here.
in the day. Yeah. And colored people
Bathrooms.
could not eat.
Bathrooms and drinking
Colored
times.
people could not eat in the restaurant.
Yeah.
You had to go to the back door and take your food to go.
That's sick.
I mean,
That's-
this went on for another 100 years. We were black people, African Americans, colored, however, the name we were called, were considered second-class citizens.
Can I stop you there for a second? On
Okay.
that one point? Speaking of the bathrooms and the drinking fountains and things, let's see, our Rat Pack, what's his name?
Sammy Davis
Sammy
Jr.
Davis Jr. helped change that, right? Because
In Las Vegas, yes.
Yes, because his friends, the Rat Pack, they said no more. This is ridiculous. This is our friend, and we're not going to let him have to take the back door. And also some big stars like
Frank Sinatra said, "Hey, look,
Like, who are the biggest
Sammy's
sing-
not going through the back door.
and the
Either he comes in
singers.
the front door with us, or we're not singing. None of us."
Yeah, and Elvis stuck up for black culture as well because he emulated and inspired his
He
work.
did emulate
all
it.
his singing and dancing was inspired by black
Right.
culture. So he definitely loved black people and music that came from black culture. And so also Josephine Baker was one of the first dancers, and Billie Holiday and
Yes.
all these older, they had to take that back door. And even when they were winning an award, they had to take the back door and they were on the stage as the winner. I mean, that's just like special kind of stupid.
Yeah.
It is.
You know,
it should have been abolished that day. Like, okay, no more. Let's just end that.
You know, we feel uncomfortable when we talk about race in this nation, but it's long overdue.
Yes.
And it is to make us aware, not to offend anyone, not to make anyone feel uncomfortable, but to make us aware of our brothers and sisters who are in our communities, who live with us, who walk the same life that we do, but their plight has been much, much different than the average, guy.
It's a thing that's time has come.
Yeah.
Everything evolves. Everything, gets to the point where it has to pop. It's going to culturally shift.
It will, and it did culturally shift.
Yes, it did, and it's still shifting. And like
it is
today,
still shifting.
this show, you and I, this is shifting.
Yeah.
We're making a shift.
Yeah.
That's what I love. We have a show that's helping.
Emmett Till, and this was during that 1865, between 1954, that 100-year period. If you looked at a white woman, you could be hung.
Oh my gosh.
And Emmett
What
Till.
What state was that?
Oh, it's typically throughout the South.
Not California.
Yeah,
My mom, 50s
if you haven't,
California,
Google the story of Emmett Till, who a white lady said that this black man looked at me, and
she got him hung.
Not only was he hung, he was beaten.
Ooh.
He was hung. He was dragged behind a truck or something, set on fire, and then they hung him out for everyone to see as an example to other African Americans that this is totally unacceptable.
Yeah.
So to be sitting on a stage with you today
That's
in
like
the studio.
That's like the primal day or the Dark Ages where they hung people in public to give a lesson, to teach a lesson, and people would go back to work.
Yeah, but the thing that really
it was sick. They
got
show
to my
it
heart
in public.
is that Emmett Till's mother chose to have an open casket. And the funeral was in Memphis, Tennessee.
Wow, and he was a pulverized.
And just to look at how he was beaten, his face was swollen. Sure. He was, barely recognizable.
Sure.
But, as we've talked, that was that period between 1865 and 1954, which was 100 years,
yes,
where we were first Negroes, and then we were colored, and then we were black, and then we became African Americans. But in 1954, things started to change. I mean, folks started to say, I've had enough. And in Montgomery, Alabama, I'm sure you've heard the story, where Rosa Parks said, I'm not sitting down at the back of the bus anymore. And that sparked the civil rights movement. And during that movement, is where Martin Luther King came. And he had a vision as well. And Martin Luther King I'm very fond of because he's a Morehouse graduate, Morehouse College, where I went to school. He was very, very interested in helping the plight of African Americans at that time. And he went on to Boston College, where he got his divinity and studied under Thurman. I should know that name right off the top of my head as well. Mr. Thurman is also a Morehouse man. Howard Thurman, was also a Morehouse man. And he coached and mentored Martin and turned him on to Gandhi and the nonviolent movement. And Gandhi, Martin was so enthused, impressed. His soul was awakened when we talk about serving others. His soul was awakened to help others and to be of service. He actually went to India to meet with Gandhi. My understanding, and I could be wrong, is that he didn't even have an appointment, but sat out in front of his house and said, I'm going to sit here until he meets with me.
Right.
And, that sparked the nonviolent civil rights movement in this country, starting in 1954.
Kind of like a sit-in.
Yeah, where you saw black people being bitten by dogs, fire hoses turned on, on black people.
Tear gas.
It was just a troubling time for our country. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until... and also the African American men who went to war to fight for their country...
had to be in a regiment all of their own.
They came back home
right?
thinking, hey, I'm a hero, I fought for the country,
Right, like normal.
that now I have my rights, and you still had to go to the back of the
That's
bus.
horrible.
You still had
And
to
they had,
go to the back door to
yeah,
get food from the restaurant, and you were still called boy. Okay?
that's
That was
sad.
a very, very
That's an
difficult time.
insulting thing to be called when you're an adult, and yeah, it's disrespecting. And they had their own regiment in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
the war
So,
in the war, and they actually the Civil War, right?
right.
And they actually did really well, though. They did really well in
Oh,
their
they
own
did.
regiment. They had great statistics.
Yeah, they did have
They
great
were,
statistics,
not
including
lazy.
the
They were committed. They were
the
good.
Tuskegee Airmen who started
the
their
airmen.
own right. Um, you know, there's a lot that they did
They
that
were they should, and they were recognized way later. Like the last few years, there was a show about it, right? So
Right.
what are they called? The red something birds? I don't know.
yeah.
But they were recognized. A lot of people in Black history are now getting recognized that should have been recognized years ago, and I'm going to go into a few of those more when he gets done with his list. But
Okay.
the new history books are coming, baby. They're coming. We're helping write them right now.
Yes,
We're
yes,
gonna
we
be
are going to
talking
help
about them
write
in
them.
depth.
There were 3,959 lynchings between that period that I mentioned, from
That's enough to make you scared.
1865 to 1954, and even on past 1954.
In Mississippi
yeah,
and-
Mississippi led the country with the number of lynchings.
Right.
It became quite an entertainment piece.
For the Ku Klux Klan people, maybe.
No, just average people. They would,
Those weren't average people.
they would.
Come on.
Have you seen the pictures? They would go to a picnic and hang a guy, bring food, and celebrate and watch this. This went on in our country.
That's my
And
people?
Huh?
White people did that?
Yeah. And
What are you doing? What are you thinking?
I'm not against white people at all. Like I said, we are sharing the history, and maybe through the two of us and others who are doing like-minded work,
Right.
will be able to bring about a change in this country. And people talk about, what's going now with racism at an all-time high. Things happen for a reason. This was to bring it out into the open.
Right.
There has been a Band-Aid on that wound in this country for years, but that Band-Aid has been taken off, and the world can now see the wounds that have affected, not only African Americans, Jews.
Sure. And even that traumatized me. I was a white girl in a small town with no black people in my whole high school. Hello, there are pretty much very few people who are African American in Lodi, California. When I grew up, was it 50,000 people in our city? So, it was a grape and wine, one of the places they had a lot of wineries and all. But I don't know, it was hard to not have that black history when I was knowledge when I was younger. Probably in a way it's sheltered me, and in a way it's better that I learn it when I'm older, or get more details and become more open-minded or knowledgeable, because I can comprehend it, and actually I can digest the pain, the horrible parts. I mean, little kids, you don't even want to show little kid. I think it's horrible. Why would you show a kid somebody getting hanged, of any nationality?
Right.
It's traumatizing to anyone. So
Right.
it's sort of like, I'm not sure that black people want to shelter their children from it until they're old enough to be mature enough to handle that kind of horrible stuff. But in a way, it might be kinder to them. Let them be children when they're children, and not let them see that kind of stuff till they're a little older, and they can learn it in a mature way.
Well, racism.
Because that's actually continuing racism if they get this anger from a 3-year-old.
Racism is taught.
Yeah,
it's
see,
not,
if a
it's not
3-year-old is
something
watching
that-
a hanging all the time on TV, and their mom is always, and their dad is always, well, and this is the white man, and blah, blah, blah. Of course, they're going to become racist in their own way. It's reverse racism. I mean, people consider racism only black. It's white. It's every nationality.
Okay.
It's having a slant against another culture that's not fair or right.
Okay. Well, moving forward, we're very, very grateful for the works of Martin Luther King. In 1964, the Civil Rights Act was passed, and that was unfortunate that King wasn't around to see that. But Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act, which made it illegal to discriminate against race or gender. it also ended segregated schools. And that was in 1964. And believe it or not, that was only 55 years ago.
Yeah, that's amazing. And Greg was very fortunate to have Martin Luther King III as his roommate in college. So you had, in a way, I feel you were part of history because you were touching it. His family was history, a big part of our history, and so you got to be in his inner circle and his friend, and you did homework together all the time, right? You were close friends. So, he and you're still going to call him today, right? But that
Yes.
that probably gave you a little bit of a different point of view as well.
Okay.
Even from growing up, knowing the honor of Martin Luther King.
Right. So after the Civil Rights Act was passed, we had affirmative action. And affirmative action was made to allow black people to maybe catch up.
Yeah,
Okay,
it was a great opportunity.
So you have given free labor for 250 years.
18 years, right.
Okay, and you're behind the 8 ball.
So here's your chance to get up in business.
Here are families who have, businesses that have been passed down to their son and to their grandsons, corporate businesses who built their legacy and their fortune on the backs
and their dynasty
on the backs of slaves.
Yes.
And you're 265 years behind. Okay, so let's give some affirmative action. And affirmative action in this country was for about 40 years.
And they've ended it recently, right?
Well, it was ended. It did end, and it ended at about 2004.
Right. 2004.
And
wow.
maybe a little bit. It's around that time frame when it was.
But I actually think it actually is become a norm. I mean, I don't think all companies just say, "Oh, good, we don't have to give." Different nationalities a break for a certain amount of women, certain amount of this culture, this culture, this culture. We can just do what we want now. I think it's become a norm to have a balanced group. I mean, maybe not every company, but I think that it would become.
Well, there are some colleges and universities who still have the quota system.
Because you got the best of whatever nationalities.
Some groups have decided they did not want to give them funding if they did not, if they take down the affirmative action and say.
Who said that?
I have to have so many seats for African Americans. There were a lot of people in the country who did not like that.
Sure, they didn't like it.
And it was very
changed.
open discussion to say, hey, look, my kid applied to Harvard, and he had a 4.0, and he had, 700, 800 on the ACT or whatever the test is, and he was denied, but an African American got in. Right. And, hey, I wasn't around 100 years ago when they were doing these ungodly things to African Americans, so why should I have to pay for those mistakes?
Yeah,
so
or
that argument,
or there's always a
that
handful,
argument went on and on and on.
And there's always a handful of people who had a bad experience with African, culture, put into their business, and there's always going to be a few naysayers. There's always going to be that backslide. But then a lot of them were positive experiences. I mean, you got the cream of the crop. You got the best, smartest people.
Yes.
So you should have had pretty good experience with most of them, I would hope. Getting in your business and doing business with you and bringing you forward and making you, becoming recognized and bringing their families up because they're securing their family fortune or wealth for future generations to come.
Right. No, I do agree with that. But, that's a very difficult...
But statistically, I don't know how that shakes out, but it's probably somewhere in between. It can't be, it all slid back.
Well, I don't think it's moved too much, in the right direction.
So you always have that in the back of your head, like you're worried when you go for a job.
No, I'm not worried at all.
I mean, you're past your worrying years. He's established himself in business as a very successful business person with a lot of skill sets, different skill sets, and specifically in sales.
Yes.
But for people who haven't established themselves and they're still in that challenging themselves period or wanting to prove themselves out in the world period, like your kid, he's out of college. He's starting to prove himself. He's got a video business. Hi,
right.
Chad.
Yeah.
Hey, Chad. Nice to see you.
Shout out to you, Chad.
Laguna, look him up. It's called Franklin. What's it called? Productions.
Yeah.
Franklin Productions in Laguna.
Okay. We have made progress during that 40-year period. We did see an increase in African Americans going to college, African Americans getting master's degrees.
Like at the mountaintop, they were doing the college
scholarship fund.
Well, they showed all the kids that graduated from high school on the screen.
Right.
That whole mountaintop church thing we did last 2
Right.
weeks ago or 1 week ago. But they had a whole day about graduation. So they were honoring every age and grade, but mostly high schoolers and college students who were graduating with the credentials and came up and spoke.
Yes.
And it was beautiful. And I
Yes.
wish I had belonged to I did belong to a Methodist church that was big like that when I was a kid, but Unity's not so big per se, but I love that honoring up on the screen, and your name, and like everybody cheers.
More of that needs to be done.
It was great, and
Yeah.
just to see the proud parents, and the kids standing up tall with their shoulders back and their head up, and they're very, very, very excited about their future, and everyone there is behind them.
Yeah.
That's what you need. Your
But-
feeling of congregation behind you, and really work.
But the more progress that we made in corporate America, how many corporations had a black CEO, whether it was male or female?
Not
we
sure.
did
More
not
more
break-
more females or males? Would you
Well,
say?
I would say right now, without having that actual statistic in front of me, I would say that there are more female
I do too.
than
Just
there are
offhand,
male.
I don't know corporate, but statistics. But it seems like
Well,
there are a lot of
like I
women who
said,
have gotten breaks more than the men for some reason.
you had almost a 250-year head start. Be more inclusive, in your hiring process and allowing, people who have been discriminated against for years an opportunity to get in the game.
Right.
So
But-
the
but-
average income
Yes.
of African
This
Americans,
is what I wanna
according
hear.
to a CNN report
Right now?
last year,
Okay. Last year.
was that black family, an African American family who's not college educated,
With 2 incomes or 1?
with 2 incomes,
Okay.
averages about $38,300 a year,
Okay. And the
as
poverty
as
level is
compared to an average white family,
Okay.
which is $71,300.
without education.
Without
they're gonna make about
education.
35,000 each.
Okay, now that's not in all
Right.
parts of the country,
Yeah.
but that's an average.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now for the college educated,
Mm-hmm.
the white average family for college educated is 106,600,
Okay.
and for the average black family educated 2-income family that went to college, their income is 82,300.
So it's 20,000 less at least.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we are making progress. I'd be interested to follow those numbers to see if those numbers do increase or do they decline.
Right.
So
right, because
you know,
affirmative actions has stopped, you mean?
affirmative action
Legally.
Yeah,
legally
it has stopped. It has stopped.
But there might be some new program that they put forward, because it's not just African Americans, it's other cultures too that aren't
Yes.
getting a break.
Yes.
And it's because we have a huge Hispanic in our country and statistic in Asians. A lot of Asians in our country too. And, I don't know, people who don't speak our language very well, they are not always going to get a job where they can be in front of people because they don't speak our language very well. They have to go to school for that.
Right.
So there's always going to be a generational, you got to wait a while until you can get up to that level.
Well, right now
Yeah.
it's been thrown around.
African Americans speak great.
Yeah, in the government of reparations. Now, if you'd ask me, I don't know if you can put a dollar figure on the suffering that people have had and say, okay, take this amount, now go away and be happy.
Right.
I don't know if you can actually put a dollar figure on, the repercussions of what slavery did to some of the normal African Americans. Can you imagine having
I don't
your
know.
family and one day the slave master decides that he wants to sell your dad to another family?
Yeah.
He's starting to get a little
and I know-
old and he can't pick like he
can I-
used to, so we sell him,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
now your family is
Can I
broken
share
up.
what Oprah does when she goes down her hallway?
Okay.
Remember? I was telling you, I saw this little blurb. Oprah said that she goes down her hallway every single day, maybe not every day, but she says every day she goes down and she sees this picture of a slave, a woman holding her little daughter's hand, and the daughter or the mother and her are both about to be sold, but she's holding her daughter's hand. And, she just sits there and she looks at that and she absorbs it and she says, her prayers for the souls of those people and for whoever had to go through that, her ancestors. And some people say, she was saying, well, so why does some people ask, why do I do that? Why do I want to keep reminding myself of that? And she says, I do because it makes me strong. Keeps me strong, keeps me reminding me myself of who I am, where I come from, and what I need to achieve in this lifetime, what my goals are, to try to reverse how oppressed African Americans were.
Yes. Well, for me personally, I know a lot of years I walked around with a lot of anger, and I hid it.
Before you were married or after?
Well, pretty much
all of the above.
All of the above.
Okay.
But it wasn't until I would say that I had a spiritual awakening that I realized what was driving me was my anger.
That's an interesting
Be
insight.
transformed by the renewing of your mind. And when I became, let's say, more forgiving, and I didn't run on anger, and I realized that I create my own destiny by my words and my actions, that I became a changed man.
It's beautiful.
So
that's an epiphany. I mean, that's a big transformation.
And
it's called being existentialist, because existentialism is where you're creating your own future.
Right. I mean, you really can't walk with that load on your back. You really can't. I mean, you have to move forward and know that there is a power greater than ourselves. Whether you call him God, Spirit, Jesus, Muhammad, whatever you call, your higher power, that can move you through all of this if you let it happen.
Right. Yep. And I love that. That was beautiful. And actually, speaking of which,
well, I'll end mine on Emancipation, Proclamation. I could go into much greater details about,
I want to talk about the Black history, though, a little bit. What came to mind for me about the subject was all the best leaders, cultural changers, inventors, how we need to rewrite the history books, and all these people who are on Bill Maher or on the news, on TED's Talks, who are sharing and writing new books about, accumulating all this data. It will all, I say, be someday in new history books about American history that's more accurate and inclusive of all people's nationality. Maria, something happened. It's not on the screen anymore. Okay, if we're still rolling, I wanted to share that...
our producer stepped away for a second.
Are we still on? Okay, good. All right, so what came to mind for me was to hopefully make sure that he spoke about Martin Luther King.
Yes.
Music.
Okay.
And that's jazz, blues, rap, the BET Awards, which were on last night.
The BET Awards.
BET, we're going to talk about that. And dance in America.
Yes.
Very influenced by Black culture, and probably the best dancers in the world, because everybody knows that. That
Are we going on break?
I have to say, we could in 2 minutes, because I can finish this list after. Or I could go through it quickly, then we can finish up this segment.
Why don't we go out for a break?
Yeah, because I want to talk a little bit more about it. It would be fun.
Thank you for being with us.
Yeah.
On this
Gregarious Joy, coming back soon to talk more about Black history.
On this tough subject.
Yeah, Black history and culture change.
Yes.
Making cultural changes.
Thank you.
Check it. Try to feel a bridge, instead I burned it down. Oh, I tried to lift him up, but found me beaten down to the ground. Oh,
social media shows
is about
branding, opportunity,
and outreach.
We are an entertainment company that empowers others
by promoting and supporting our community
and everyone who reaches our content.
here on social media shows.
Here we're a family.
We are family.
We are family. I got all my sisters with me. We are family. Get up, everybody, sing.
We are family.
We are family.
We are family. We are family.
We are family.
We are family, and we want you to be part of our social media shows family.
Live streaming on social media is the best new way to interact and bond with your community. Do you love to encourage, motivate, and empower others, but you do not know how? Well, your opportunity starts with us on social media shows. We have 20 shows a week live streamed across the globe, with a reach of over 80,000 and growing. So you can host your own show, and you can be anything you want to be. So let's bring the community together, and let's bring the world to you. Join us now.
Social media shows
is about
Branding, opportunity,
and outreach.
We are an entertainment company that empowers others
by promoting and supporting our community
And everyone who reaches our content.
here on social media shows.
Here we're a family.
We are family.
We are family. I got all my sisters with me. We are family. Get up, everybody, sing.
We are family.
We are family.
We are family. We are family.
We are family.
We are family, and we want you to be part of our social media shows family.
Live streaming on social media is the best new way to interact and bond with your community. Do you love to encourage, motivate, and empower others, but you do not know how? Well, your opportunity starts with us on social media shows. We have 20 shows a week live streamed across the globe, with a reach of over 80,000 and growing. So you can host your own show, and you can be anything you want to be. So let's bring the community together, and let's bring the world to you. Join us now. Listen, check it. Trying to feel a bridge instead of
Hey, we're back.
Coming back. We are back.
Woo!
Before we left,
It's Greg Franklin from Greg Franklin Speaks.
Gregarious.
Gregarious,
yes.
and I'm Joy, Bettina Joy from Bettina
And
Fashion.
seriously, that is her middle name.
Yeah.
So when I met her,
And I didn't
how
even
this
use
all,
it. I didn't
how
use it
this
for
all came
years.
together She said, "What's your name?" Greg Franklin. She said, "Well, what is your nickname?" And I
I said that?
"Yeah." And I
Really?
said, "Gregarious." And she said, "I love that."
Yeah.
She said, "My middle name is Joy. You know, we should start a social media show called Gregarious Joy." So it all started with just a thought and an idea.
Right.
So
and I call him
thank you
Gregarious.
for
When
bringing
he's,
that forward.
when he's on my good list, I call him Gregarious all the time.
Okay.
Like today.
All right, but Tina was going to bring us up
Yeah.
to date with.
When
She
it
had
came
put
to
together a
mind
list.
for Black History,
Yes.
speaking of, and actually, by the way, just FYI, as I was learning about Greg, getting to know Greg, and learning more about Black history, I realized, and I said to him,
I like
think
how she says Greg.
Greg.
Almost sounds like Craig.
Greg.
C-R-A-I-G.
You don't like the way I say your name?
Greg.
Greg.
Okay, go ahead. Go
Do
ahead.
I say it
go
in a
ahead.
good way or bad
No, it's
way?
good. It's all good.
Is it sexy
Go
or
ahead.
is it
Go.
ugh?
This is a children. I mean, this is a an
PG
adult
doesn't
show.
mean you can't say sexy. Sexy
Okay,
is a good
go ahead.
thing.
Go ahead with your list.
Come on. Okay, but anyway, I said we want to always, talk about, as he's sharing Black history with me, I said to Greg, he should actually teach Black history. Because you've known a few people in history and in the entertainment industry over the years. You've actually had your opportunities to rub elbows with lots of people and press palms and actually even get to know and be in their living room. I mean, for Christmas, weren't you in that guy's house? And
Yeah.
you know, a lot of celebrities in the world, there's a few that know Greg and his work and recognize him as a true patron and solid leader in Black community.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I
think he should he should maybe teach Black history
I
someday.
paid her
possibly.
some
No,
iced coffee to say that.
he should. I bought it. I bought that.
Yeah, go through the list.
But I think he should teach Black history in college someday. Okay, anyway. All right, Martin Luther King.
Okay.
Here's what comes to mind. Like, because when we were first met, I think you were sharing a lot of
Go through your list.
repressed things, and I was saying, hey, but you know what? You guys got the best athletes, the best music, best dancers. And he's like, yeah, that's true. And I said, so you got those? I mean, come on, you had a president. Okay, so you started to lighten up
Yeah, I
when
did.
I said those.
I did.
And it's true. So music, jazz, there's so many different kinds of jazz, like 10 or 12 kinds of jazz. That was all for Black culture. Blues, I love blues so much. Hello, Sand Dollar.
If you haven't been to the
Sand
Sand Dollar, man,
went
I'm
this
telling
last
you,
week. It was
that
so
is a
good.
very, very inspiring place.
Really
The
fun.
music is off the hook.
It's off the hook, yes. And,
If you close your eyes, it sounds like gospel music to me, anyway. But
Yeah.
the organ going and
yeah.
you had a lady singing and
It was so fun.
Yeah.
We have to go again. I went last week with JC and Maria. We heard some people and Greg missed out, but anyway, another time.
Okay.
Jazz, the blues, rap. Now you still don't like rap that much, but I do like rap a little. I like it enough. I like it 20%.
I like the early rap that we had.
25%,
the
30%.
vulgar rap with
like Khalid. I like him. My son Max. Hi Max.
These are the
he's-
breaks. I mean, I
he's-
like the simple rap. I mean, the rap now that I hear.
like the song about the
it
cell
seems
phone.
to kind of. Well, I don't want to do
It's
that because
stupid,
I don't want to get on
I don't wanna- we don't
anyone's
wanna
nerve,
bash, but
I don't want to
I love
denigrate
Khalid.
women.
I
I
like-
don't want to use profanity.
Yeah, we don't want to do that stuff because
No.
that's the dark side of rap is that there is a lot of verbal abuse
But it's
towards
but
women
acceptable
and
in pop
oh,
culture.
yeah.
It is.
In fact, if you don't call somebody a beep or somebody a H ho something, then you're considered like you don't got no game. You have no game. You're not scrappy. You're not cool.
That's a whole nother topic for another
It's
day.
like screw being cool.
That's a
I don't know.
whole
I
nother
think it's
topic for
demeaning
another day.
overall. It's whatever you do with your best friends when you're alone with your
Okay,
best friends.
have
I don't
you
think
finished your
bring,
list?
I don't think you bring it out in public. But anyway, my son Max is really into rap, and every kind of rap ever since 6th grade. He's a college student now. He loves rap. He goes to a lot of concerts. Khalid, he brought me to a Khalid concert when because we didn't want to drive alone across LA. He just got his license, and I lived in LA 25 years. So I went with him from the Valley all the way to Riverside or somewhere to see this Khalid concert. $20 ticket at that time, and now they're $100. Boy, my kid didn't pick him because he picked Drake too, the same way when he was cheap tickets and then
Right.
whoo, big. But Drake and then Khalid. It was so much fun. I'm telling you, I felt like a fly on the wall, the oldest person in the entire place. Literally everyone, not just 20-year-olds, but younger, because he was only turning 18 the day after this concert.
Yeah.
Khalid. And his first album was coming out the day after this concert.
Yeah.
The roof was blowing off. The energy in that room was, you could cut it with a knife. It was amazing. All these younger than 20-year-old high school students were just like so, and they knew all the words to all the songs, and they were just singing at the top of their lungs, all of them, in the whole place with him. And even somebody looked at me, some girl who we were standing room, kind of the standing area, and she says, "Oh, Guy, there's an older person here." Like she made a note of saying something about me being there, and I go, "Yeah, I'm a cool mom," like that. But it was so much fun, honestly, because I felt like I was at the Elvis Presley at the very beginning or something. Honestly, Khalid, you're amazing because your energy and your sex appeal was very apparent. He not danced like Elvis, but there was something about him that I had that feeling like he is going to make it because he's got that sex appeal and the words, everything came together. His backup. But anyway.
Well, next time, just
so
tell
music,
them that you're an usher if they say that.
I'm not going to say I'm an usher.
I'll
take
mom.
your.
Just to say, yeah, I'll take your ticket or something.
Yeah, you can tip me. I'm the ticket lady. Oh,
Okay.
God. No, I was having fun.
Okay.
And I actually became a fan shortly before because my son sent me music before we went to the concert, so I know what
Okay.
I was getting into, and I did
Okay.
start to like the songs even before.
Okay,
But
so
anyway,
what else we have?
okay, dance in America.
Okay.
Like, Josephine
Okay.
Baker was the
You
first
mentioned her,
African American
right?
dancer who made
Okay.
it big.
Yes.
And nobody will forget Josephine Baker. She
Yes.
made history.
That is true.
History. She was not only she made the news, like Coco Chanel era, and I'm sure that, she had a lot of people in her audience wearing Coco Chanel clothing, with the hats and the new look and all this stuff. So I just, gives me shivers. And Billie Holiday,
Yes.
all the older,
Yes.
wonderful. And
Billie Holiday lived to be 91, was it?
Oh God, that's so great.
I'm not sure of that
I'd like to
age.
get a CD of her, or put her on my
Okay.
Pandora. I should do that.
No, that wasn't her. That was. But go ahead.
But
go
anyway,
off
and
the
all the
list.
civil rights icons, like the railroad, Underground Railroad. Who was the woman who
Harriet Tubman.
Harriet Tubman was
Yeah.
the biggest person, and
Who's-
my kids learned about that person in 3rd grade. They started learning in 5th grade. They had to do a lot of reports on
Were they
civil
going to
rights.
put her on the $5 bill, or was it the $50
I
bill?
think she got a stamp. Didn't she get a stamp?
She did get a stamp,
Yeah.
but they were going to put her on the face of money. I can't remember whether it was the 5 or the 50. And
And who else has a stamp now?
the
Dancing on the ceiling.
yeah, the president decided he wanted to wait until he was out of office in order for that to happen for Harriet
Why?
Tubman.
Why?
He delayed it.
Oh, was there a reason? Oh,
Okay.
okay. Well, at any rate, also not only
When you talk about
civil rights
stories,
icons,
civil rights stories,
there were so many. There are so many
living
people
in
who
Atlanta,
are really important in civil rights.
living in Atlanta,
change.
and as you mentioned, my roommate Martin Luther King. Shout out to you, Martin III.
I called him Marty the other day. He was talking about
No,
me, and I
but
said,
you don't call him that anymore.
I go, who's Marty? And he go, oh, Marty.
Martin. Okay.
He was calling him Marty.
Being around
funny.
him, I had opportunities to go to their home and
That's neat.
listen
For the holidays, or what did
listen
you
to
do?
listen to great stories.
Oh, wow.
And I heard a lot of great stories, but one that really got me, and I think Andrew Young, Ambassador Andrew Young, is the best storyteller. One of the best storytellers I've ever heard. I mean, the guy is really good. He was the right-hand man of Martin Luther King.
Okay.
Andrew Young.
Okay.
Ambassador.
And
He
he
was
still
ambassador
lives.
under Jimmy Carter
Oh, right.
to the United Nations.
Okay, and he still lives, huh?
Yeah, he's still
Wow.
living. But anyway,
He was
Andrew,
there?
huh?
Was he there?
Yeah, he was telling this story about when he became the pastor of a church in Albany, Georgia. And I started laughing, ain't that Albany? He said, no, it's Albany is the way they pronounce it in Georgia.
Okay.
So he's getting ready for his first church service. He's prepared his sermon for the day.
Uh-huh.
And he looks out the window because he started hearing some noise, and there was Ku Klux Klan standing out in front of his house.
Snap.
So he
Why?
says, so
why do they have to ruin a good day, right?
So he says to his wife, he says, "Go and get the shotgun." And she said, "What?"
Is she in church? Is he in church?
No,
No,
he's still at home.
Okay, but
He's on his way to church.
and they're going to block his way. They're trying to block
They're
him
trying to block his way.
from getting over there.
And he looks out and sees
gosh.
this. He says, "Honey, go get the shotgun."
Yeah,
And she
they're
said,
on our property.
"She said, I will not." She said, "Because if you go out there with a shotgun,
Yeah, that defeats the whole purpose, right? Of what
you
you're
are
try-
just as low as they are."
Yeah, you're trying to
Aren't you
be
supposed to be the minister?
nonviolent.
Aren't you supposed to be the,
Exactly.
come on, you're the man that's supposed to deliver the,
Yeah.
to make
nobody,
a change.
I mean, nobody wants that burning cross on their lawn or something, but guy,
But to be able to have the courage to step outside of your house with no gun, your wife said she's not going to pull out the shotgun. You have to go out in peace and in love
and get in your car.
and squash this.
Yeah, just drive away.
And I just can't imagine, or I can't imagine, what they went through during the civil rights movement.
That's why they had to have
have
body-
to face these people
Yeah.
on a daily
They
basis.
had to have bodyguards.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
Martin Luther King had a lot of body, and he still got shot.
yeah,
But so sad.
there are some great stories that I've heard from them, and thank you very much for sharing that.
Even you were a bodyguard with
Oh yeah,
as a friend thing.
Yeah.
But
So
you
let's
were
see.
there with.
You also talked about we have a
Marty.
lot of sports heroes.
Oh yeah, I said, well, dance, civil rights icons. Okay, no, science. The woman who was in the movie, I thought of it earlier, Hidden Figures.
Hidden Figures.
Yeah, that was such an awesome movie to celebrate one of these brilliant scientists, mathematician, who helped put us into space. I mean, this woman who was a pinnacle person in our Apollo evolution.
Yes.
The Apollo and the NASA evolution. I know you saw it, Hidden Figures. Very good movie.
Yes.
On HBO. And yeah, I can't remember the actress, the one she's so great. But she played both, well, 2 or 3 of them were in that movie that were really amazing. But that was a beautiful tribute to credit where credit is due.
Yes.
Listen, maybe African American women are pretty good at math, okay? Did you know? It's not only Asians in the world. Hello, maybe the African American mind, there might be something culturally that they
There's
have
only
as a
Asians.
gift. All right? That's
Okay.
a beautiful thing
Okay.
that we've discovered and that happened. And that helped segregation at that time. There was a black and a white bathroom at that time, and she had to walk all the way across the whole 3 buildings to do her business, and that was horrible. So that all changed because of Kevin Costner was the boss, right? And he says, no more, this is stupid. That was a good movie. Anyway, okay, what about inventions like, good old Mr. Carver with a peanut.
George Washington Carver.
How many
How many inventions did he make from the peanut?
Usages of the peanut, 100 or
Yeah.
something, good medicinal, and
Good old peanut butter.
practical
Right.
usages for the peanut. It was very
Right.
great.
Right.
He got into one thing and he did it well. Okay, also all sports heroes. Okay, now that just like is a giant subject right there, gigantic. And you could take any sport, probably except for cruising or I don't know what sports. There are few that aren't African American dominated, but not that many. Most of them are.
Yeah.
So you got that for your culture. That's a beautiful thing.
That's a great thing.
It is.
That is a great thing.
That's because you're from strong stock there, bud.
Okay, well, thanks for reminding us of that.
Yeah. It's like we need to celebrate the positive, accentuate the positive, honestly, and work on the negative and work on the tough things. Like just that, Spike Lee did that movie, The Black Klansman. We spoke about it in our last show, I think.
One of our shows back.
Maybe it was 2
yeah.
shows. But that Black Klansman was fabulous, and I believe it was based on a true story about the African American police officer who infiltrated the
Klan.
Ku Klux Klan in
Yeah.
the 70s, looked like the 70s.
Yeah.
And it wasn't publicized in the regular news, which I thought was a horrible ending.
Yeah,
to
when he
find
called,
that out.
Yeah, when he
It
called
was
David Duke and had
shocking
that
and
conversation that he
disgusting.
wanted to come to a meeting.
Oh yeah, you love
He
that
said,
part.
"How do you know I'm not black?" He said, "I know you ain't black because black people pronounce ara, and you have good English."
And the guy
I
spoke
thought that was
eloquently.
hilarious.
Yeah, because he got back at him later. He said, "Aura" or something like
Yeah.
because the
I don't want to tell you too
we
much,
don't want to
but
spoil
you really should see
but
the movie.
Black Klansman's excellent by Spike Lee from 2018.
Yeah,
and it was
HBO showed it last month.
Right, and you can
in its
Google
entirety
it.
3 or 4 times.
I'm sure you can Google it. It was a fantastic, excellent movie.
Fantastic, I would say.
Which its time came in the 70s, and it should have been. I think that the equal rights and Black history would be different now if it had been recognized. That whole thing that happened had been worldwide news and recognized on a higher, more bigger platform in the world, and regular, like as a kid, I would have known about it.
Right.
If it was in the 70s, because I was a 70s kid.
Right.
I would have known about it and been different. Our culture would be different today, farther along when it comes to racism with black and white, if it had been recognized. Anyway,
I
I'm
agree.
very disgusted about that. That's why I hated that ending. Anyway, okay, and then, and all the sports, all the sports. But I could say, also the last and final thing I want to say about Black history is Greg should teach Black history.
Oh,
That's all I can say.
Thank you. Thank you, Patina, for giving me that.
He's
Maybe
turned-
it's something we should consider. I'd have to go back to school or something.
Yeah, you
but
have to
anyway.
get his master's.
Yeah.
They make you have that these
I
days
find the
to
history,
teach.
very enlightening.
But they also make
And
at
rewarding.
private schools, like private high schools, private colleges. You don't have to always have that. You can sometimes get an industrial certification.
Yeah.
I was in the garment industry for 25 years as a clothing designer, and I got to teach at 3 different fashion design colleges.
Oh,
and
so that's how you stay all made up all
Oh
the time.
yeah, I made this jacket. I'm like all into.
Every
fashion.
time I see her, she's got a matching scarf for every outfit, and I kid you not. Every time
I'm
I
a
see
scarf
her,
freak.
I see.
I don't like those lines that come down here if you don't wear a scarf. I don't know, a scarf person. Even in
Okay.
the summer.
Yeah.
I like wear silk ones. But that's just me.
Okay.
But Greg,
Well, thank you for sharing, and again, thank you for listening. I'd like to end this subject with, race in America with me. And as we say, let there be peace on earth, but let it begin with me. As I mentioned, I was really driving on anger. I had been a top sales rep for years, and I never was invited to participate in management. And
you were upset by that.
Yeah, that really bugged
and
me.
finally you made it happen, but it was not without like a lot of work. And,
Well, yeah, I mean,
restlessness and
it was a trial.
Groveling and fighting for it.
It was a trial. I took an opportunity with the startup company, and that was one of the things that I put on the table was, I wanted to have an opportunity to be a part of the decision-making process of the company, i.e. management. And the guy said, you know what, this may be your opportunity. I think you got a good shot. So I gave it my best, and when the time came, I put my name in the hat. I was in the West. I put my name in the hat for the Western Region Sales Manager. I won't say the name of the company. But they hired the Eastern Manager first, who had only been with the company maybe 3 or 4 months. Hadn't sold anything.
So it was a big disappointment and shock.
Then they went to the Midwest Regional Manager.
Mm-hmm.
Again, he hadn't sold anything and made me last. And I had to go through a series of interviews that were just, it was...
Like grueling, huh?
Yeah, it really was.
It was like chopping you down or making
Yeah, I don't know whether it was to frustrate me in the process, to
Right.
throw up my hands or what,
Yeah.
but I was determined. And
to
one
see,
of the
to
things
see
that...
if they could frustrate you.
Well, one of the things
Probably.
that made me determined, which really, really changed my mind, was when I moved to San Francisco. And that's where I got my spiritual awakening. At Unity of Palo Alto, under the leadership of Reverend Stan Hampson. Stan, shout out to you. Stan took me under his wings. He said he saw a lot of potential in me. He said, you're going to become a minister. And, I didn't see any of that stuff. But we went through a program because I was on the board. And one of the requirements to be on the board
4 T's.
is the 4T.
Yeah, I did the
So,
4 T's class too. It was good.
You have to be willing to give of your time, your talents, your
treasures, and tithing.
and tithing.
The four T's.
Okay, so the fourth one I had never done in my lifetime. And I'd always thrown a buck in the plate, $5,
But
$10.
you didn't keep track, like to see if it was 10% or.
But I wasn't giving 10% of my
Yeah.
income to anybody. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so I made the commitment in this program that I would do all the fours, all 4 of them.
Wow.
Okay, so I
And you
became,
figured out that number.
Yeah.
It was hard, probably,
So,
right? Given that much.
when that plate come by,
Uh-huh.
I just put that envelope in the basket,
Right.
knowing that in a few days I've got a MasterCard bill that's due. But
And you're just trusting, right?
yeah, and
Jeez.
the ex is sitting next to me, and I'm saying if she only knew what I just put in this
She's
plate.
gonna scream.
But anyway, when you put God first, when you put Spirit first, and let God lead, just miraculous things can happen. So I went through the
Did
process.
you experience some miracles from that class?
I did.
I did too. Everybody did.
I did.
How could you not?
I did.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
We
So
had these things you had to say
long
every
story
day.
short, I'm going to tell this story, and then you can have it from
In fact,
there.
we should take that course again.
Yeah.
We're going to.
I went through my final interview, and he said, I'm going to think about it, and I'll call you tonight at 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock came, there was no call. 8 o'clock came, there was no call. Finally, it came about 9 o'clock, and my ex said, let me just prepare you. You didn't get the job because he he would have called you at 7 if you did get
start
it.
accepting the
So
the
he
grief.
calls me up at 9 o'clock, and he said, Greg, I'm terribly sorry, but, I'm going to have to go with someone else. And I said, okay, fine. And he said, that's all you got to say? He said, cuss me out, say something.
He felt bad.
I said, you know what? I'm just glad the process is over because it's been
Right.
very frustrating
You have
for
to
me.
wait.
So, I called Stan, my pastor, and I said, I didn't get the job. And he said to me, that's odd. You did everything you said you were doing. You gave of your time, your talent, your treasure, and you tithe. And
Your
at the,
40s.
there was a box that you say, okay, God, if I do all of these things, you will do this for me. And I had it in clear writing, regional manager. I wanted that job.
Right.
So I was disappointed. And he said, you know what, hold on, let me put my wife on the line. And Susan Burnett Hampson, his wife, said, Greg, I don't think God is through with you yet in this situation. Okay?
She just had a premonition. Huh?
She did.
She was very insightful, and she was intuitive about you because she was praying for you.
Yeah.
I'm sure they were your cohorts.
She said-
they were your mentors in that, or your inner circle.
Yeah,
you were sharing everything with them.
Her famous statement was, stay in the question. Stay in that question. But don't go down. Don't get upset.
Negative.
Stay with it, okay? So I did. And I went to the regional meeting. My counterpart was introduced as the new regional manager. He had been with the company all of a week, hadn't sold anything. I mean, that was a very difficult pill for me to swallow, to have some guy who just came on board, who hadn't sold anything, and you gave the job to him.
Right. No
And
track record.
Right. And on the coffee break, oh man, I had people, one guy said, man, I don't know why you keep trying.
Right.
You are so stupid. You're never going to make it. Do you see anybody in management that
Can you
looks
believe
like
the
you?
stuff that people
And I'm
say
like,
to the
okay,
people?
next. Then I go to the next
And
girl,
then
and
at
she
the
says,
airport, right?
oh,
What
yeah,
did she say?
yeah, oh, that was funny.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I got to the airport that
I told
morning.
this whole story on another show, but go ahead. Go ahead. It was good. I love it. She
yeah.
was saying some stuff.
Oh,
man,
I mean,
just-
she was just
Obviously,
going
they get-
on and
they're
on
hardcore.
and
These
on
salespeople.
and on and on and on. And I was saying, oh
Yeah.
God, I really don't want to have to hear this all day
Yeah.
today. And then the belt stopped, and her luggage wasn't there. And she said, oh my God, my luggage isn't here. And she said, well, why don't you go ahead and go on to the meeting, and I'll catch up. And I was like, oh,
Thank you,
thank
Lord.
thank you.
I
So
don't have to
hear
go
that.
in the car with her, and she was dissing you outwardly.
Yeah,
Like,
so-
even
yeah, it
somebody
was.
said something about your dad being a postman.
Yeah,
I mean, really? Are
Yeah.
you kidding me? But that's
Yeah,
like
that
that's
is
as
true.
scrappy and mean as they get.
That
I
is
guess
true.
in that,
There was
that
one
sales
guy
world,
that
you know.
had been with me in sales for like pretty much throughout my career. We had sold.
They don't hold anything back.
I mean,
Shoot.
he made a statement on the break. He said, "Look, I know you didn't think you were going to make management. You don't even have the pedigree. Don't your daddy work for the post office?"
Yeah, right.
And I was
That's
like,
pretty crude.
"Dude, that is fighting words."
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
I it was for me, but
Yeah.
again, I stayed in the question, and the question for me was, "Okay, God, I did what you wanted me to do. I followed the 4 T's. I took the steps. I took all the right steps. What's happening here?" So lunchtime, we get our break. Everybody's rushing to the lunch table, and there's one seat left when I get there, and it's next to the new manager.
So you had
and
to
I'm
sit-
like, oh my God, I have to sit next to this guy. But again, I was open.
Stayed in the question.
I stayed with it, and I said, "Hey, Mike, congratulations, man, and tell me a little bit about yourself." He ended up having two sons, like I did. Found out we had some great things in common, and we had a good lunch together. So I got through the end of the day, and we got to dinner. And again, everybody's rushing to get to the dinner table, and there was one seat left.
And it was next to
the director who made the decision to go with Mike.
who he wasn't very happy with.
No, and I'm like,
You know.
That's when I went to the bathroom, and I shut the door.
You prayed.
Okay?
Right.
Like I've mentioned before, everybody who's sitting on the John is not doing a number 2. Okay? I said, God, help me here.
Right.
Speak to me. I mean, I did all the right things. I was, one of the first people they hired in sales. I've done everything
Paid
that
your dues,
that
you're
was
ready,
asked of
you're
me.
ready to sing the blues, and it hasn't
So,
happened.
I just got over it, and I felt a sense of peace and calmness come over me. So I went back to the table, and I sat down, and just as I sat down, the waitress came by and got everybody's drink order, and she brought the drinks back to the table, and everybody, was getting ready to start drinking, and Spirit nudged me, and
You jumped up.
I took the call.
You jumped up and said, "Let's have a toast."
I said,
He proposed a toast.
before we have a drink, let's toast that our mission of saving lives, that God bless us on this journey, that God prosper and bless every family around this table who took an opportunity to come on board with the startup company.
Right.
Bless our families,
Right.
and bless this corporation, that it can be prosperous
And helps.
and pay us all.
And help save lives.
So, we all got some stock options in this deal. So, bless the management team. And everybody was here. We were tipping glasses. And I sat down, and my boss was sitting right next to me. He still had his glass in his hand.
Couldn't
And he was
drink.
looking at me like,
Like he was blown away by your.
I just kicked this dude in his
Candor.
balls, and I knocked him to
Yeah.
the ground, and he is still being positive.
Right.
So after dinner, I went and packed my bags. I could not wait to get out of that hotel. Okay?
Right.
Mother Teresa could have came on board that plane. I was looking out the window. I was ready to go home. Okay? So,
But when you got home,
so the next day, no, this happened on a Friday, and then on Monday, I get this call, and I'm heading down the freeway. Have I told this story before?
yeah, you did, but it's okay. Tell it again. I love the
I
end.
did?
I love the ending. The ending's amazing. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So, I get a phone call, and I'm getting ready to drive. Well, I'm passing the San Francisco 49ers stadium right to my right, and I looked and I said, you know what? I got a stellar territory here in Northern California, in San Francisco. I shouldn't hang my head about anything. And as I'm getting a little closer to the Bay Bridge, the phone rings, and I look down, and it's my boss, and he says, are you driving? And I said, yeah. He said, pull over. And I did, and there on the freeway, he put the president of the company on. And he said, I'm sorry I couldn't be at the meeting. I was out fundraising for the company. Your boss told me how you responded when you did not get the news
Yeah.
that you wanted.
Right.
And that's the kind of leadership that I want running my company.
So they.
Will you take the position
Yeah.
of the Western Region Sales Manager for my company?
So that was a
I
major.
was absolutely floored
blown away.
by staying in the
Twitch.
question, staying in the moment, being transformed by the renewal of my mind that nothing can really go against me, no hurt can go against me. I had to remain positive. It would have been easy for me to go back to the old self of, oh, they're racist, I will never be anything, the
Right.
company ain't, but I did not do that,
It's not fair
once,
and all
not
that.
once.
Yeah. That
So,
was pretty great.
um,
And so he did the happy dance after he got out of the car, and people on the freeway
still-
almost got in accidents
Yeah,
looking at that.
and still doing the happy dance to this day.
About that.
Yeah.
How many years, or then how much?
So I'm going to end with this, and then I'll pass it back to you.
All right.
You are the thinker that thinks the thoughts that makes your life go.
Definitely.
Okay? If you think you can, you will. And if you think you can't, you won't. Okay? Even in the midst of all the racial prejudice that goes on around it, you are still in control of your thoughts and your actions. And there is a God out there that's greater than any being that will see you through your journey if you are willing to let go and walk by faith and not by sight. Because if I'm looking at it by sight, I can't see anything. I don't see the miracles happening. But when you trust and believe that God will bring you through, miracles will happen.
Right.
And I'm going to leave it with that.
Yay! Thank you. That was great, the story. I loved it. And Black history. Speaking of Black history.
Yes.
And just wrapping it up, saying, you know, all the different things that are going to be rewritten in history, I believe, and you helping with that, possibly, with your talks and with your knowledge and opportunities you've had in life to meet people who are part of our everyday history, like Spike Lee. You knew him in college even.
Yes.
And Martin Luther King III, and other people of real importance in our entertainment industry that you've met through going to church.
Being a legislative assistant for Senator Bob Dole.
Yeah, you met some politicians.
And we had some great conversations.
You had great times with
I remember
him
asking him. I
at
said,
the White House.
listen, we're the only state, Kansas, the only state who has not made Martin Luther King a holiday.
Oh my goodness! At that time.
Yeah, and he sat down and looked at me. I mean, come on.
Jeez.
You know, Martin Luther King gets a holiday. Who's next? What's the? He started naming off names.
But you got in him. You got to him, right?
Yeah, I said, man,
Probably just.
do you realize that in every African American family in this country, that there is a calendar on the wall in the kitchen or somewhere in that home with Martin Luther King's face on it? You go to every single funeral home and there's a fan with Martin Luther King's picture on it.
On the fan for your face.
Yes,
like,
yeah, when you're fanning.
Yeah, that's just a cultural ism now. It's
Yes.
it's a known.
You can't pass that up.
Yeah, you can't. So he did. They did change that.
They
right?
did change
They
it.
had to.
They did change it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say it was because of my conversation with him, but you know, I really had some good times with him. Shout out to Bob. He used to take me to lunch, and we'd have some great discussions. He treated me like I was the son he never had. So, again, I think that this all goes with our topic today and our inspirational message of being on fire with passion to serve. Okay, stories like yours and mine can only make a difference in this world if we let it. Okay, and I'm grateful that we've chosen this avenue to put the message out.
Yeah. Oh, and
like I said, it's not perfect.
I wanted to say
but
again,
it's a start.
I'm not saying that I didn't know about Black history as a child, just because I came from a city that didn't have any very many Black people at all.
Right.
But I'm saying that it was latent. Like I remember third grade, we were singing, "Jump down, pick bale of cotton." You know, jump down, turn around, pick bale day. We had those songs in our third grade class.
Right.
Loved them. That was some of our favorite songs. And then, of course, you're going to have to ask why this song came about. It was from the slaves and picking cotton.
Right.
You know, so we learned about it through that first.
Right.
That we didn't, as a white child, I didn't learn about it by the lynchings. Like you, I don't know about you, but most probably people, their kids, like I said, 3-year-olds might get to see that on TV or in books or heard stories in detail from their parents and the grandparents about the lynchings and how many and this and that and picnic and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we didn't learn it that way. We learned it in a different way, which I think was more, I don't know, hopefully, whatever, it was appropriate for me. I think, because I learned it at an age when I could digest some violence. You know, I couldn't handle it at 3. I don't think it's appropriate to teach a 3-year-old about violent things or let them see anything like blood and guts and too much sex or any of that. I think there's reasons why we have, what is it called, the rating system, you know, for appropriate, age appropriateness.
Okay.
So that might be something that could be instilled, is age appropriate teaching, Black or white. Maybe the whites should learn it earlier. Maybe the blacks should wait a little longer until the kids are old enough to learn it, instead of just in the kitchen all the time, or, you know, maybe as a rant, like, you know, but something constructive that's in an appropriate way to learn it for age appropriate. Yeah. Anyway, let's talk more about the next subject. Okay, the next subject we wanted to talk about was, I saw something on television yesterday. It was really great. It was the 66th Scripps Howard Journalism Awards. And I didn't know those existed, but it was interesting to watch because it actually had something on there that pertained to something that happened to me or was involved with my life. This one story won the award. It was called Hidden Files. And Hidden Files was about the hip replacement thing, where hidden files where they didn't keep good records of hip replacement surgeries way back, you know, when they started. And I actually know somebody in our city here, Las Vegas, who actually got one of those bum hip. I got a hip replacement, and I called my doctor right away when this guy had told me his story, but luckily I did not have one of those bad ones. These metals they put into people gave them Alzheimer's without a doubt at a young age, 100%. So it was sick, you know, that this got into a lot of Americans' bodies, and had to have recall, of course, when they figured it out and ripped them out of the people's bodies and put a new one in. But the thing is Australia, see, I guess the first 10 years of using hip replacement, Australia had done it 10 years before America, and they kept records. But when we, of all the, you know, how it was and what happened to the people and all that. But America, when our first 10 years or whatever, we didn't keep records, which I don't understand why you wouldn't keep records of, like, there's no test, you know, they're not testing it ahead of time, apparently, you know, like a blind test and like a, you know, trial period.
Yes.
But because Australia had kept records about those products that we were using also, we caught it a little sooner than we would have, but that people were getting this bad piece of metal put in them that gave them Alzheimer's. So anyway, that was the show that won. The journalism award was to one of them, to Hidden Files, and I thought that was great because I knew about that one because I did check to see if I had that bad metal in me. So
Man, that's a whole nother topic for us to discuss one day.
You know, like recall,
big money pharma and big money medicine. You know,
and recall on botched surgeries or botched, you know, items that were put out on the market maybe prematurely, or when we found out, you know, the mesh and all those things that people have had as a recall for the body.
Right. Well, we're getting better.
Luckily there is
you know, with surgeries and medicine.
There is some recourse. They win money from a lawsuit, but you know.
Yeah, there is. You know, for years, as a pilot, if you wanted to fly a plane, you had to go and sit in a simulator. And they would actually take you through turbulence and that whole thing, so that, you know, they get an opportunity to see how you would respond.
Right.
Well, about maybe 2000, simulation in medicine was introduced to this country through a mannequin, and
oh, that's not good.
That was
right.
good.
Like the guy Tully who landed the plane, and they said that the simulation was done by dummies.
Right.
Mostly.
Okay, so simulation in medicine, where, you know, I would sit in a box. And I would have a computer screen in front of me, and I could say lower the blood pressure, make him sweat, make him cry.
Right, you were part of that.
Yeah, reduce his heart rate, and then have a team of physicians come in and give them 5 minutes to make an assessment.
Like the show House, like analyzing what's wrong with this person, kind of like game.
Yeah, so we would always preface it with, it's okay to make a mistake in the lab.
Yes.
We want you to make mistakes here.
Yes.
But just don't do it out on the floor.
Right.
And that has really, really reduced the number of medical malpractices in this country.
Is that machine, the dummy, that they could practice on?
You know, it's
simulated situations.
It's called SimMan, short for Simulation Man, a company by the name of Laerdal. Laerdal Medical introduced that to the market. Laerdal's based in Stavanger, Norway, and shout out to
Was it a blonde dummy?
Huh?
Was it a blonde from Norway, the dummy?
You know,
or do you have hair?
they had mannequins in all colors.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, they did.
They were racist. That was good. Did you have an African American one?
Yeah, we did. We had an African American one.
Did you grab that one when you were teaching?
Yeah, and they had an African American baby. You know, the baby simulation was really good.
So you had
yeah, we've come a long way. Not to say that we're perfect, but medicine in this country
equal rights
is
equal
improved,
rights
has been improved. Okay.
He's black and he's proud. He's got to have the dummy.
She's got a dog.
Boston Terrier.
And yeah, he looks like
Raleigh.
Yeah, he looks like that dog on Spanky in our gang. He's got that one black
like
patch right here.
And a wide eye.
Yeah, and Raleigh was outside one day, and
breed.
you know, I came by her house. We were supposed to, you know, work on the show, and the dog was whoop 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 whoop. He was going on.
He's barking, and he imagined something that he was saying. That's creative. I like that about you. You're a creative guy.
So
I never met anybody like him. I like that brain.
So dog
comes
is
in.
barking.
And he says to me, he's talking. And I go, what is he saying? And he goes, he's saying, I'm black and I'm proud. So we had a lot of laughs about that. But
Every time I see Raleigh, I think
said,
about
now
that.
you got a buddy. Now you got a brother in the house. See, you just wanted a brother. That's all. You want your little cohort, friend here.
So, as we wrap this up, what can we do as individuals to promote peace in our world with all cultures, whether you're black, white, Asian, gay, straight, lesbian, transsexual? What can we do as a nation to bring all of this
I think
together?
I think that what we can do is keep speaking peace.
Okay.
And not keep hate going. I know you have to tell kids that there were lynchings. You have to tell about the Ku Klux Klan and the burning of the cross, and horrible things. But, I know it still goes on and stuff, but still, the BET Awards were just on. When they're giving their speeches.
The BET Awards. I'm working with her on the vernacular
But
here.
Mary J.
Blige.
she was singing, and they were saying how.
She got hip to Mary J. Blige last night.
No,
Go
I
ahead.
know who that is.
Okay.
Don't you say that?
Go ahead.
But they were stating that a lot of people, women or men, experience life through her music.
Yes.
Because she spoke of the highs and lows of life in her era, and she just shared life, and that was very noted about her work. And she did sing, and it was great. And she had the big blonde fro, which I thought was fabulous, a long one, and he didn't like it, but I thought it was beautiful.
I thought it was all right.
I thought it was
I've
like
seen her look better.
I wanted to touch it. It was like cotton candy.
Yeah.
That's a free feeling when you have your
sure
hair all
it is.
natural. I don't know. I like natural a lot of times, but anyway. And then so I just thought that was a way that we could keep peace going, is when people give speeches to glorify or accentuate the good. Accentuate the good. Like, his what are words? I mean, sure, the rap, they had some dancing, right? They had a really great dance performance, and her song stuff she did. But just accentuating the positive somehow, more than the negative.
Okay.
Like, the negative exists, but I think that we should go 60-40. We should try to go forward with more peace. Okay, and then the movie Shaft. We saw a movie this weekend. That's another way, peace. Okay, it was great to see 3 generations of Shaft. And I say that that's part of Black history. He doesn't think so, but it is. That's a Black historical figure that's a character in a movie, but very, very great and very known and very liked and beloved by many people, is this tough private eye, who. And the new movie, what was it called? The new one, it's Shaft 3. I don't know. What was the movie called?
It was so.
It was great.
She called.
I
and
liked
she
it.
said,
Some people have said they don't like the movie, but I thought it was very good.
We haven't done a movie review, and we promised to do that. So let's go see a movie. And you wanted to see, what's that one with Will Smith?
Oh yeah, the Aladdin. Well,
she wanted to see Aladdin.
If we had some kids with us or something, I'd
But
take
Aladdin was
Aladdin.
past the time.
Yeah.
And the only thing within our time frame within that hour was Shaft.
I like Shaft too.
And she
I always
said,
like Shaft.
and she won't admit it. She said, "Who is Shaft?"
Shut up. I did not say who was.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I know who Shaft is. I love Shaft. Before I met you. But the thing is I didn't know that there were 3.
Okay.
I didn't know about the grandpa.
Right.
Okay, because in the movie, there's the son who ends up. Oh, I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah.
But just go watch it.
Don't tell the story. Don't tell the story.
It's super good, and he's a total nerd and different than his dad. He's like a square. In fact, I said, Greg, do you identify at all with the son? And he goes, yeah, I guess I do, because he was college educated, FBI. Don't let me.
MIT educated.
Don't let me say anything else. But it was good how he was different than his dad, and then he ends up meeting his dad because he didn't really meet him.
He said
never met him until he was a total adult.
Yeah. We don't want to tell the whole story, but it was kind of funny. He goes and he meets, his dad
And
for the
needs
first
his
time.
dad's help.
Shaft.
He gets
And
his
he
dad's
says,
help.
He says, "Who are you? You look like you shop at the Gap or something."
And you're white.
Yeah.
You're trying to be white, right?
It was hilarious.
Which people have told you that you try to be white.
No, they have.
I think you said you hate that. Yeah,
I've never said that.
I thought you said people have told you that, or some African people have said. I don't know, whatever. It's just a way to diss somebody. You know, it's like
I think
by
that's
the
her.
color of
I
the
think
skin.
that's her saying that more than anybody else.
Okay, fine.
So anyway, you want to wrap up this show?
Yeah. So watch the Shaft movie. You liked it, and I wanted to just say, in creating our lives, and you
Yes.
said that was our premise of the show, right? Was to create our own life, right? That's existentialism, which is the act of creating your own life.
Yes.
There was a great TED Talk, I don't know if it was a TED Talk, but by this guy, Joe Dispenza.
Joe Dispenza. If you haven't heard Joe speak, do hear him speak.
Good. Do you know who he is?
I do.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, because I loved it. It was great.
Yes.
You are the creator of your world. And he was talking all about, from A to Z, A, B, C, D, E, all the steps of realizing our reactive mind and how we know. But he went through it so beautifully and articulately. And and I know most of it. Most of it is pretty rote with me. Although, you always need a refresher. And I'm not a Gandhi yet, nobody
Yes.
is. But he spoke about it in such a way that it was paced and clear. And when you heard, by the 3/4 of the way through, you felt very empowered. And the end, just to listen to one of his talks, very good. And also John Gottman about relationships, and Esther Perel about relationships, who I've spoken about them before. Fantastic.
Yeah, these are guys, especially Joe Dispenza, who talks about creating your own world. That's become a buzzword. People use it all the time
But
now.
it's about the reactive.
Speaking into
we
existence
have an
and all of that kind of
we
stuff.
have an incident.
But there is work behind speaking things into existence.
Yeah, like
okay? There is
talking
work
about,
behind it.
like kind of like the Q process. It was the way he spoke about it. Like you have an incident, and then you make a decision about that incident, and then it's in your brain pathway, and then your body. It goes into your body actually, and as your whatever that thing is that comes up again, you'll feel the emotion in your body again. Just like you always have about that whatever thing, that story or that thing that hooks you. And so then he said,
that's the voice.
The physical
that's the
in
voice
your
of
body,
intuition.
that makes us act, like that makes us become sad or happy, or it gives us the depression if we feel that in our body. So he just went through it. It was beautiful. So watch that.
Yeah, and he also has spoken
really good
with and been connected with Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith. Shout out to Dr. Beckwith at Agape in Culver City,
right.
Los Angeles greater area. If you haven't heard him speak,
Agape is well known.
I would highly recommend you Google Dr. Beckwith and Agape. Very, very moving minister. As a matter of fact, I went to his church for a couple years after my divorce when I moved up to LA, and just loved every moment with him and his congregation. And he's also a Morehouse man. So shout out to you, Dr. Michael. Keep up the good work.
All right. Well, that's all I had to talk about was...
Well, that's all we have for today.
And go to Red Rock, take a hike. Rearranges your molecules. It's good for your brain and good for your body, too.
Okay. What's your closing statement for people today?
I'll pray for you.
You pray for me.
We're all part of one
big family.
And let there be peace on earth.
And yes, let it begin with me and you.
Amen. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for watching Gregarious Joy. It was a pleasure being with you. Hope we see you again next time, and give us your comments.
And the star.
Oh, yes. And as you're watching this live, which you're still watching live, this is the first time we're showing it, hit the star on your phone or your computer. I don't know. And
Only phone.
On the phone. And what is it that happens with the star?
They start.
Yeah, just give us a star.
Just hit the star and then
give us a star.
Read the thing that comes up after that. So that would be great. Thank you for watching.
Fantastic.
Bye.
Bye.